Hey, what's up guys? It's Jonathan, and welcome back to another review. In this video, we're actually going to be looking at the LG G4. I'm a little bit late to the party, but however, it's better to be late than never and have nothing at all. So a lot of these guys have their review up. I've had this phone for about a month now, maybe a little bit more. So I'm able to give you my full review of the LG G4. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So the LG G4 really, in terms of design, isn't all that much different than the G3. You know, when it comes to that smooth texture on the back because of the plastic back, depending on the model that you get, it's really almost identical, except for now they have like a diamond pattern. But that's not to say it's a bad thing. It's a great design. It fits a 5.5-inch display in the palm of your hand, and it's almost usable with one hand for the most part, depending on the size of your hands. On the front, you have a beautiful 5.5-inch IPS quantum display, which is good for a pixel density of 538, and the display is gorgeous. I mean, it produces accurate colors, it has great viewing angles, and thanks to the IPS display, you're going to get decent outdoor viewing. It's not as bright as I would like it, something say as the Galaxy S6, but nonetheless, it is great and you're going to be able to view most of your content. It does feature a curved design, so it's going to be a little bit more immersive, at least that's what LG says. However, I think that curved displays are a little bit gimmicky, as I previously said in some of my other videos. But if you like curved displays, it's not particularly as curved as like the LG G Flex, but it is a slight curve and it just looks great. Of course, LG's new thing is to have no buttons on the side, making it very minimalistic when you look at it from the side. However, the buttons are on the back, just like the G2, the G3, and now the G4. So you're going to find your volume up and down buttons, the power button, and then your new and improved 16 megapixel camera, which we'll cover in detail in just a little bit. The buttons I've noticed are a little bit different than the G3. They feature a little bit better of a texture, making them a little bit more tactile. So I have to say it's slightly improved from their previous model. So unlike other smartphone manufacturers who are steering away from swappable backplates, removable batteries, and SD card slots like Samsung, LG has retained all this, and you can pop off that backplate and you can swap it out with one of 4 different leather variants. You have a brown leather, a red leather, a black leather, and like a mint green, and they look great. So if that is your type of thing, then they have many different variations available. Underneath that backplate, you're going to find a swappable 3000 milliamp hour battery, and I believe LG is running a special, so if you pre-order your device with a carrier, you get an extra battery and a battery charger. I guess it depends on your carrier, so you might want to check into it. You also have an SD card slot, which is expandable up to 2 terabytes, which is phenomenal. I don't even know if they make SD card slots or SD cards that big, and if they do, they're probably crazy expensive. If you know of any that are affordable, leave them in the description below so that way other people can find them. I would greatly appreciate that, and I would be actually needing that information myself. So also you're going to find a micro SIM card slot, which throws me off a little bit because most of the other smartphone manufacturers are going to nano SIM. So the idea of a micro SIM kind of killed me a little bit because I have a nano SIM, but anything can be done with an adapter. Now on the front side, you're going to find a new and improved 8 megapixel camera, your proximity and ambient light sensors, and your LED notification light. And of course you have on-screen buttons, so there's nothing physical going on there. So LG did a great job with its design. Even though it's pretty much a carryover from the G3, it's still very comfortable to hold. It's a 5.5-inch display that you can hold in one hand and pretty much use your phone to text, make phone calls, and browse the web. It's almost a one-handed phone, depending on the size of your hand, so they did a great job at keeping a compact form factor. Now, in terms of performance, you're looking at the Snapdragon 808, not the 810, and I'll explain why in just a minute. And then you have the Adreno 418, and then you have 3 gigabytes of RAM to power this beast of a phone. And that is more than enough to get you through your multitasking, your gaming, and any task that you throw at this phone. In fact, I did some benchmark tests with the HTC One M9, which is running the Snapdragon 810, versus the G4, which is running the 808. And you can see there was some areas the 810 did perform better, but for the most part, it was neck and neck, and actually one test showed the 808 to be better than the 810. So I guess it just depends on what kind of test you're doing, but the 808 is definitely not that bad, and it's not that much worse than the 810. In fact, in many ways, it's better. And one of those ways is with the overheating problem. Now, the 810 on the M9 gets pretty hot whenever you're doing some serious gaming, multitasking, or anything like that. But the 808 doesn't get as hot. Now, it still does get warm, but it's nowhere near as hot as the 810. So I think that's the reason why LG chose to go with a customized 808 processor over the 810, is to reduce the heat on the back and still give you great performance and reduce cost of the phone. So that way when it comes to you guys, if you want to buy it off contract, it'll be at a much more affordable price. So speaking of gaming, I actually got into this racing game I've been playing on the G4, and it's incredibly fun, and I did some extenuous amounts of time gaming with this particular game, and I found the performance to be great. I mean, it does heat up a little bit on the back, like I said, and I did experience a frame rate or two drop. So there was a little bit of lag, but it definitely performed just as good, if not better, than the same game on the M9. So I don't feel that the decrease in specs versus something like the M9 is that much of a big deal. So if you're having any second thoughts about the G4 because of the 808 and then the 418, have no fear, it definitely performs just as good as, say, a phone with the 810. Moving into the software side of things, LG features their UX software on top of Android .1, and it's a really heavy skin. In fact, it's my least favorite skin out of all the phones, including TouchWiz. But it is running on not the latest version of Android, but the latest version of Android available to most smartphone manufacturers at this given point. This includes Samsung, HTC, and so on and so forth. So you're getting the greatest and latest version of Android technically on most of your flagships, despite Nexuses and things like that. So 5.1 definitely is improved over 5.02, and then the UX on top of that is buttery smooth. So you can do your multi-window features, you can do the Q-Slide apps, whether you're swiping through your apps, scrolling through websites, whatever it is you're doing, it's going to be buttery smooth, and I hardly experienced any lag. So the reason why I don't like LG's software is just because it's really ugly. The icons are hideous, the quick notifications in the notification bar are absolutely horrendous. I just don't like the way it looks, but it still runs buttery smooth, don't get me wrong. I just hate the look and feel of the UX on top of Android. But all that can be changed with a custom launcher like Nova Launcher. So you just apply Nova Launcher, apply your icon pack, and boom, you have a phone to your liking that runs and plays great and does whatever you need it to do without any major stutters or hiccups. Now coming back to the design of things, LG has kept the rear firing speaker, which, don't get me wrong, sounds great, but I prefer bottom firing, but I much prefer front firing speakers over a rear firing speaker or bottom firing speaker any day. And I just wish they would have just incorporated maybe some front facing speakers rather than that rear facing speaker. So maybe the next generation will have a more redesigned or better designed speaker placement. But it does sound great, don't get me wrong. It doesn't sound bad at all. I mean, everything is crystal clear, and it does get quite loud, but when you're laying your phone face down, say you're doing some exercises on the carpet, or you're working and you're laying down on your floor and you do have carpet, or whatever the reason is, it does sound muffled if it doesn't have anything to reflect that sound off of. So just keep that in mind when you lay your phone down on a surface. Now, if you lay your phone face down, of course, that speaker is going to be facing up, and it will be just as loud as not having a surface behind it or anything at all. So that's just my only complaint when it comes to the speaker placement. However, it does get quite loud. Now, like I said in the beginning, the LG G4 does feature a new and improved camera. It has a new and improved sensor, it has a f1.8 aperture, has manual controls in the software, it has OIS, 4K video, and it's able to take some amazing photos. Don't get me wrong, I love the camera on the G4, and I found it to be really nice, especially for an Android platform camera. It's one of the nicest on the market to date. I will definitely give them that. The only issues I have with the G4 camera is it's very unpredictable when it comes to whether or not you're going to get a good picture in auto mode. It tends to overexpose images, and the video is definitely not the best. It overstabilizes things if you're doing any moving recording or anything like that. So just keep that in mind. If it's a bright background, you might want to switch it to manual controls if you can. That way you can adjust the ISO, the exposure, and then the shutter speed, and that way it's not overexposed. But just shooting it in automatic, which is what most people are going to be doing, because a lot of the people that I know that have cameras on their phones take pictures of their kids, their pets. Most of the time, things are very fast-paced. And with that being said, since things are fast-paced, a lot of the times you don't have the time to go in manual controls and adjust all that, so you just shoot in automatic. And that's what most consumers are going to shoot in, is automatic. And being that I did most of my testing in automatic, it overexposes pretty bad, especially if you are in a shaded environment and you're trying to capture maybe a tree that is in a shaded environment, but the background is still bright, and you focus on the tree and you lock the exposure on that, it's going to blow out the lighting in the background, and it can actually ruin your image, which is why that you want to switch it to manual controls. But within the manual control section of the camera software, you have full control over a lot. It reminds me a lot of a Nokia phone. So they did a great job implementing all of that and keeping it really smooth, really simple, and very, very intuitive. Now on the front side of things, you have a f1.88 megapixel camera, so that has also been improved and it's phenomenal. Probably the best selfie camera on a smartphone to date. I like the S6 front-facing camera because it has a f1.95 megapixel camera, but it's wide angle, and sometimes that wide angle kind of throws me off when I'm trying to capture an image with my front-facing camera. I know why they did it, but I just like the standard camera a little bit better. If I could sum up the camera in 2 words, I would call it excellent but unpredictable. And the reason why I say that is because I don't know if I'm going to get a good image every single time shooting in automatic mode. Personally, I like the S6 camera better, but that's my personal opinion. Everybody's entitled to theirs. If you've tried out both the G4 and the S6, let me know in the comment section which one you prefer. I'd love to hear back from you guys. So lastly, to wrap this thing up, let's talk about battery life. Battery life on the G4 has been pretty good. Now, let me put up a quick disclaimer real quick. When I first got the G4, I was running it on T-Mobile. T-Mobile didn't give me LTE or even 4G. I was just getting Edge, which sucked. So I had to go out and purchase a prepaid GoPhone AT&T SIM card in order to use it on LTE. So once I did that, I wasn't able to just switch my number over or anything, and I can't really just stop using my previous number because in my line of work, I rely on contacting patients, family members, and other colleagues at work. So I can't just switch my number. So I was able to contact family through it, text family, play some games, browse the web, just multimedia phone pretty much. Well guys, to wrap this thing up, if you're looking for an alternative to the S6 or the S6 Edge, check out the G4. I promise you, you won't be disappointed. It's a great phone. The only thing I don't like about it is the UX on top of Android. I just think that it's ugly, but once you apply a launcher, it clears it all up. Make sure you guys stick around because I will be giving one of these bad boys away. I actually have it in the house right now, and I will be posting a video up very soon with all the details of the giveaway, so make sure you stay tuned for that. If you guys enjoyed the video, go ahead and drop me a thumbs up, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, follow me on all my social media connections, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Peace.